All right, welcome to the week one overview. The point of these front page videos is to provide a very brief overview of the material we're covering in any particular week and to alert students as to what assignments will be due that week. From this week until spring break, we're working on the Robertson text, the subject of which is the broad relationship between the federal and state governments. Robertson suggests that federal systems of government are compound republics where the federal and state governments each enjoy kind of semi-exclusive zones of sovereignty. Uh, then there are zones of kind of concurrent sovereignty, and then finally there is a gray zone of conflict in which the constitutions of a country don't really provide clear guidance that either the federal or the state governments should prevail in conflicts. And so consequently, considerable debate ensues over which level of government ought to take the lead. As we look at the variety of issues impacted or influenced by federalism, including education, healthcare, environmental regulation, drug control, race, gender relations, and so on, a case can generally be made that either the federal or the state government should enjoy the lion's share of influence. As we will learn over the course of the semester, consequences flow from which level of government gains precedence on any particular issue. We conventionally assume that a person's support for federal or state control over an issue is indicative of that person's ideological preferences. In that conventional wisdom, we tend to think of Democrats as centralizers and the Republicans as states' rights advocates. As we survey the history of federalism, however, we find that federalism is often invoked purely on instrumental and tactical grounds rather than in the service of ideological principle. The Democratic Party was born as the states' rights party. The Republican Party was a centralizing party at that time that ultimately used the federal government to destroy the institution of slavery. Generally speaking, when we think in terms of the perceived need for change, the party that wants that change oftentimes resorts to centralization as a pathway of doing that. And the party that resists, that wants to resist that change will oftentimes use federalism and states' rights as a way of preventing that kind of action. Americans also have a tendency to think of politics as a story of good guys and bad guys. I hope that as you read the course material and study the issues at play in American politics, you'll learn that the good guys, bad guys narrative is a dangerous simplification, a bit Zoroastrian in its perspective. People have interests and they marshal arguments and invoke sacred principles in pursuit of their political ends. Most people, most human beings are not bad guys per se. They're just people whose history, circumstances, and motivations differ from our own. When we remember that, politics becomes less of a Game of Thrones blood sport and more of a prosaic argument over issues confronting an otherwise affluent society that tolerates significant degrees of economic and status inequalities. We only have two assignments this week, the week one forum and the week one quiz, both of which cover chapter one of the Robertson text. Please note that there's a study guide and a PowerPoint in the course resources link to help you better understand the assigned reading. I hope you'll avail yourself of those. The study guide in particular has the test bank that the quiz will come from, so that's definitely something to look at. There is also a short recommended reading by Mark Bunkhauser entitled Problems Only Government Can Solve, and we can talk about why I think that is, that reading is good for this class and why we should start the semester thinking about things like that. Again, that's something that we can talk about in the forum. If you have any questions, bring them to the forum. Substantive questions count as meaningful forum participation. Alternatively, if you're on campus and feel free to, please feel free to stop by my office. I'm always happy to see an online student, and I'm always happy to talk about politics. Let's have a great week.